So they join forces, and Aufidius even says to Coriolanus, I will give you half of my men, and together we will prepare them and we will lead them into battle. Well, this is all going fine for these guys, but Aufidius starts becoming very resentful and jealous because his men are paying more attention and giving more respect to Coriolanus, and Aufidius starts to be seen by his own men as Coriolanus' assistant, which needless to say does not sit well with him. So Aufidius starts plotting on how he is going to get rid of Coriolanus once and for all. Meanwhile, back in Rome, they've just gotten word that this duo has gotten together and they're heading this way. So the people are in a panic. The senators, the tribunes, everyone is in a panic because they know they're doomed. They have no one who can defend the city against these two, the two most powerful men in Italy. So they send Cominius, who is a Roman general who has fought just side by side with for years. They send him, Coriolanus won't speak to him. They send Menenius, who is a very powerful politician who has been like a father figure to Coriolanus. They convince him to go talk to him. He gets turned away. They won't listen to him. Finally, they're out of options, so Coriolanus' mother and his wife, and Valeria, another close family friend, go into Antium and throw themselves to their knees at Coriolanus' feet and say, you can't do this, please, you can't destroy your city. The reputation that you have built up over your entire life will be crushed with this one act of saying he was a noble man until he threw it away and destroyed his home and his city and killed all his fellow Romans at the end of his life. So finally they convince him, he agrees not to attack. But Aufidius sees this and plays this in front of his men as a traitorous act because he had committed to working with the Coriols to destroy Rome. So there is, needless to say, I hate to do a spoiler here, I'll just say there is a big final confrontation at the end. And with that, I'll turn this over to Jami. Did I get it right?
I hate following you. I don't know how you do that.
I can't do it twice because it's all gone now. The words come out, they're just gone.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's my job to talk a little bit about the themes of the plays and things to watch out for and listen for as you're watching. And a lot of the stuff that Donna brought up, a lot of the issues, I think this will make a lot of sense, that this play is very much about a man who's a warrior through and through. I mean, this is who he is, it's what he does, and he lives in a culture that, at least on surface, idealizes the Roman warrior. I mean, you get your virtue by fighting other people on the battlefield. That is how you get your reputation, that is how you get honor, and Coriolanus does it better than anyone else. At the top of the play, as Donna mentioned, one of the things that we see Coriolanus do is take a city entirely on his own. He gets shut into the city, and he beats them all anyway. His men kind of, fade to the back. So, it's established from the very beginning that this guy is the real deal. He's the quintessential Roman warrior. The problem that Shakespeare's play foregrounds, though, is that, and this would have been resonant for an English audience in 1608 who was watching this play, and resonant in terms of the characters in the play in Rome, that our best warriors are not always our best rulers, right? Even in times of peace. It's not something we can take for granted that military strategy and military success is something that easily translates into being able to sort of rule peacefully over people, right? So it's at a particular time then in this play that Rome is kind of struggling to define itself. These new tribunes who are, elected by the people, who are also in power with the patricians and the consuls, really trying to kind of work this out, that we have this tension emerge, that Coriolanus just can't make that adjustment to be sort of all things to all people. He really can't be nice if he's not being true to himself. And I tend to think that this isn't a tension that is so alien to us either, right? I mean, we live in a country where we have often voted into office people who are war heroes, presidents, early and more recent. And, they've had different degrees of success in doing this, but it's not an automatic, right? It's not something you can necessarily easily do. It's not so remote to even American audiences, I think. The one thing that Coriolanus really fails at is, something near and dear to Shakespeare's heart, which is, acting, pretending. You almost get to the point where you're watching this play and you're like, dude, just suck it up for 5 minutes. Ask the people for their votes. Just pretend you like them, right? It'll be okay. You'll get power, and then you can be a tyrant again. Just hold it in. And he can't. He's, what did you say, pathologically honest?
Yeah.
He reviles them. He holds them in tremendous contempt, and he just can't hide. Well, he does for like 2 minutes. And then suddenly, they sort of goad him a little, and then he just lets loose, he goes on this long rant, and all his friends are standing around going, stop. How about, he just can't help himself, right? And so, ultimately, he's kind of a bad actor in a performance sense. On the Greek stage, the word for actor was hypocrite, right? This is the profession of someone who is someone underneath but professes to be someone else and pretends to be something he or she is not, right? If he is, nothing else, Coriolanus just can't be hypocritical. He can't pretend. And so there's this real tension when, he's too honest for his own good and he gets himself exiled, even though he knows, if he plays nice, he'll be fine. And again, I have to, throw this in, even though, in our country we've had, not only have we had war heroes become presidents, we also have this affinity for, at the national and state level, electing people who are actors to public office, right? And you get the sense that, you need that skill in order to sort of be in the public eye and to sort of play nice with the people, even as you navigate the politics of state. And it's that Coriolanus just can't do. He's terrible. He is an abysmal, public relations guy, right? He just can't pull it off. So the other thing that comes up that's related to this in the play over and over again is there's this quiet fantasy of absolute independence that Coriolanus has for himself. It's an ideal he strives after. He has this idea that if he could just author himself, he would be in the best possible place. Absolutely autonomous, independent of anyone else, as if dependence is a kind of weakness. Whether it's, political parties or being dependent on other people in a battle, he fights the city by himself, or just being dependent on, human desires, like hunger comes up a lot, sex, any kind of desires for people that get in the way of him being who he's supposed to be. There's this, this idea in the play, he almost comes close to sort of fulfilling his fantasy. I talked about how he takes on the city all by himself, Coriolanus, and, he gets in there and, manages to sort of vanquish everyone. And it's not, so a number, you could tell me if you buy this or not, but a number of critics have really pointed to this scene as a place where Coriolanus manages to stage a kind of symbolic rebirth of himself, right? He goes into the city, he comes out, he's victorious, he's bloody, right? As the stage directions tell us over and over and over again, enter Coriolanus, bloody, And there he is, he's won, and it's at this point that he gets a new name. Now you're Coriolanus. It's not the name that his mother has given to him when he was born, which would imply a certain attachment to someone else in the world. It's a name that he has achieved on his own, literally, through only his deeds, so that he gets a new identity that seems to be independent of anyone else. So for a moment, it almost seems like his fantasy of self-authorship is fulfilled. But what the play, I think, ultimately shows us is that that kind of fantasy of complete autonomy is really something that's fragile at best. It turns out that he is attached to other people, and tragically so, right? This is, am I allowed to talk? I don't know what to talk about. The ultimate confrontation at the end has a lot to do with the fact that he responds to the attachments that he does have with his wife, with his mother, with his son, and that ultimately he finds himself being completely dependent on somebody at some time.